Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, Batra, page 62b, top of the page. And the first three words really resulted in a teku, which is from the previous Amud, so I'll just recap it real quickly. It was talking about a dilemma was raised. Let's say a seller defined only the four corners of a field that he's selling. And does that mean that he's selling the entire field, and just the four corners are really just indicators of the area, or is it literally that he's selling four corners? Now, I don't see, practically speaking, I don't see this ever happening, because before a person puts down money, he's going to clarify, what it is. I don't understand why this ever comes up. This is like the ultimate moot point, because unless the buyer, it's just not realistic that someone would buy something, a piece of real estate, without defining what he's buying. So that you're asking now here, what's the halacha that we only sold four corners? Well, that would never happen. In reality, that would never happen. If you define the boundaries of the field, the same thing with they want to talk about an L shape. Is it just the L, or is it the area? Or if Sarugin is alternating fashion. If the seller defined the boundaries of the property he is selling in alternating fashion, mentioning only some of the fields bordering each side while omitting others, I would think that it's buyer beware. But anyway, Talmud leaves it off with a teku. Anyway, continuing. Mitzar lo, mitzar rishon, mitzar sheni, mitzar shlishi. Yes, so Sirugin mahu teku. Okay, Mitzar lo, mitzar rishon, mitzar sheni, mitzar shlishi. Mitzar revi lo, mitzar lo, Amar Rav. Kana hakol chutz mi mitzar revi'i, ushmo amar. Afilu mitzar revi'i. V'Rav Asi amar. Lo kana ela telem echad al penei kula. The Gemara raises a similar dilemma. If the bill of sale will the seller delineated for the buyer's the field's first boundary, its second boundary, and its third boundary, but he did not delineate its fourth boundary at all, Rav says the buyer acquires the entire field, except for the one furrow along which the fourth boundary runs, which is usually differentiated in some way from the field itself. And Shmuel says the buyer acquires even the furrow along with the fourth boundary runs. And Rav Asi says he acquires only the width of one furrow along with the entire perimeter of the three boundaries specified by the seller. Sofer le Kirav de Amar Shiore Shayar Mide Shayar B'Mitzar Shayar Nami Bekulhi. The Gemara explains Rav Asi's opinion. He holds it according to the opinion of Rav, who said that by failing to delineate the fourth boundary, the seller withheld some part of the field, meaning the furrow, for himself. But Rav Asi takes this matter and says that since he withheld some part of the field for himself, at the fourth boundary he withheld also some portion of the entire field, and therefore the buyer acquires only that which is adjacent to the specified boundaries. Amar Rava said, Hilchasa kana kol chutz mimetzer revi'i v'lo amron elal delo mevaleya aval mevaleya kana. Rava said, the halacha is that the buyer acquires the entire field, except for the one furrow along which the fourth boundary runs, in accordance with the opinion of Rav. And we said, this is only in a case where the fourth boundary is not included within the space between the two adjacent boundaries, but rather it juts out beyond them. But when it is included within the space delineated by the other boundaries, the buyer acquires it as well. V'chi lo me'avlei nami lo amran ela diika aleha rich ba dedikla v'havitishat kabin avoleka alei richba dedikla lo havitishat kabin kana miklal dechi muvla af al gav deika alei richba dedikla v'havitishat kabin kana. Rav adds, and even when it is not included in that space, we said that the buyer does not acquire it only in a case where there is a row of trees on it, or it is an area fit for sowing on kav of seed, but where there is no row of trees on it and it is not an area fit for sowing 9 kav of seed, the buyer acquires it along with the rest of the field. By inference, one derives from here that when the fourth border is included within the space delineated by the two adjacent boundaries, even if there is a row of trees on it, it is an area fit for sowing 9 kav, and the buyer acquires it. Ika de Amri. There are those who say, Amarav Hilchasa Kana, Hakol Afilu Mitzar Revi'i, Loran Ela Dimi Mavlea Avol Mavlea Lokani. There are those who say that Rava's ruling and the occasion drawn from it are as follows. Rava said the halacha is that the buyer acquires the entire field and he acquires even the furrow along which the fourth boundary runs, in accordance with the opinion of Shmuel. And we said this only in the case where the fourth boundary is included within the space delineated by the two adjacent boundaries, but when it is not included within those boundaries, the buyer does not acquire it. Toleka alei richba de dikla, lo have tishas kabin, avol ika alei richba de dikla, have tisha kabin lo kana michlal, dechi lo muvla, afal gav toleka alei richba de dikla, lo have tisha kabin lo kani. Rav adds, and even when it is included with the adjoining boundaries, we said that the buyer acquires it only in a case where there is no row of trees on it and it is not an area fit for sowing 9 kav seed. But where there is a row of trees on it, or it is an area fit for sowing 9 kav of seed, the buyer does not acquire it. By inference, one derives from here that when the fourth boundary is not included within the two adjacent boundaries, even if there is no root of trees on it, and it is not an area fit for sowing 9 kav of seed, the buyer does not acquire it. Mavlea vika leha lo mavlea leveka iala itmar leha vigisa itmar la dahai gisa shura dadaini. Seems to be a famous concept, Shuza Daini. See how much time do you have left here? Okay, we're good. If the fourth boundary is included within two adjacent boundaries, there's a row of trees on it, or it is fit for sowing 9 kav seed. Or if the fourth boundary is not included within the two adjacent boundaries, there is no row of trees on it, nor is it fit for the sowing 9 kav. The ruling in these cases was stated in this direction that the land adjacent to the fourth boundary is acquired by the buyer. It was stated in that direction that this land is not acquired by the buyer, depending upon which version of Rava's statement is accepted. Since there is no clear ruling in these cases, the decision is left to the discretion of the judges, who must rule in accordance with what appears to them to be the intention of the seller. Amarabba palgadis lebaro palga ba'ar de isli riva amar leabaya maishna hachi umaishna hachi ishtik. Rabba said, if one owns a field in a partnership with another and he says to a third person, I'm selling you the half that I have in this land, he means to sell him half of that field. In other words, an entire share. If he says to the buyer, I'm selling you half of the land that I have, he means to sell him 1/4 of that field. Half of the share. The buyer said to him, what is different about this wording and what is different about that wording? that you rule differently in the two cases. Rabba was silent, offering no reply. Amar Abaya anasavri midishtik kabole kabala. Kabole kabala. Velohi chazinu hanu shitrei denafki mi beimar. Ukusibu haki palga disli bara palga ba'ara disli riva. Abaya said, I had assumed that since he was silent, he must have accepted my opinion and retracted his statement. But that is not so, as on another occasion I saw certain bills of sale that issued from my master's house, that is, they were issued under the auspices of my master Rabba, in which it was written the half that I have in his hand in this land, and it was clear from another clause in the bill of sale that half of the field was being sold, and there was another bill of sale in which it was written half of the land that I have, and it was clear from another clause in the bill of 1/4 of the field was being sold. Rabba also said, if one sold land to another and delineated boundaries on 3 sides of the field, and with regard to the fourth, since he wrote in the bill of sale, the boundary of the field is the land through which the field is halved, he has sold him half of the field. If he writes with regard to the fourth boundary, the boundary of the field is the land from which a plot can be set apart, he has sold him only an area fit for sowing 9 kav seed, as that is the minimum size of a plot of land defined as a field. Amar le'Abaya ma'ishna hachi ishtik savar easy palgo. Abaya said to him, what is different about this wording and what is different about that wording, that you rule differently in the two cases? Rabba went silent and did not respond. The sages understood from this silence that Abaya understood that Rabba retracted his ruling and conceded that in both this case and in that case, the buyer acquires half of the field.